You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 53.
Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life. Hey everyone, welcome. We are so happy you are here listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast. Whether you are new or you've been listening for a while, so happy you're here. Do we tell you often enough how much we appreciate you? You guys are the reason we're here. Also, just want to say thank you to everyone who's been sharing about the Balanced Educator Podcast. Word of mouth is the best way to share about something. I know that most of the podcasts I listened to were recommendations from other people. So please keep on sharing, and we'd absolutely love to know who's listening. So go ahead right now if you're not driving and take a screenshot of you listening and put it in your Instagram stories and tag us at EduCalm. That's EduCalme. We'd love to connect with you. Today, we are having Melissa Russell from Simple Lionheart Life a second time on the show. So she was on the show for episode 41, and we talked about minimalism. But this time, Melissa came back to talk about how she's practicing mindfulness with her family, and also she shares a lot about her daughter's journey in being diagnosed with anxiety and OCD and what's helping her and them as a family to work through it all. So Melissa writes about creating a simpler, more intentional life by decluttering and embracing minimalism at Simple Lionheart Life. Minimalism and simplifying have had such a positive impact on Melissa's life, giving her so much more time, space, and freedom. So much so that she's made it her mission to share the benefits of creating a simpler life. Melissa shares motivation, encouragement, and practical advice to help people get rid of the clutter and create a life with less stuff and more living. And what's so interesting is that the fact that she is practicing minimalism has really led her to mindfulness. And as a matter of fact, we kind of talk a little bit about how they are related. Now, just before we get into this, just want to remind those of you who are in Winnipeg or Manitoba kind of area that we have an awesome in-person professional development workshop coming up on April 25th. In the morning, it's in English, and in the afternoon, it's en français. And a year subscription to EduCalm Classroom is actually included in the cost of this workshop. And in this workshop, you'll kind of learn how to get kickstarted with this mindfulness practice and exactly how to use EduCalm Classroom for like maximum success. And we've already done a couple of these in-person workshops, and they've been such a huge success. We've gotten such great feedback that we had to bring it back. So you can go to www.educalm.com/EduCalm Classroom PD. And again, EduCalm is spelled EduCalme. All right, guys, it's time. Let's dive in. So can you introduce yourself to our audience?
You betcha. I'm Melissa from Simple Lionheart Life, and I blog and write about minimalism and decluttering and simplifying and creating an intentional life. And kind of my little motto for how I like to sum up what I do is I like to focus on having less stuff and more life. So you get rid of the clutter and the excess and the distractions so you can have more time and space and energy for the people and the activities you love.
I love that. And we've had you on the show before, and we'll link to the episode in the show notes. And last time we got a little bit into this topic of mindful parenting. We talked a little bit about how you are using our program, EduCalm Family, but we didn't really get into the nitty-gritty of anything. So we really wanted to have you back on a second time to talk specifically about this subject. So first, I'm going to ask you, what does mindfulness mean to you?
Yes, this is such a good question. And the last time I was on, I shared my favorite way to explain mindfulness, and it just totally sticks with me. It's from Leah Weiss. She's a Stanford professor, and she said on a podcast that mindfulness is the intentional use of attention. And I just love how simple and true that is. It's just perfectly sums up that being mindful is being intentional about where your attention and your focus is.
I love it. It's simple. It's clear. It's a really good definition, and it's stuck with me too ever since I saw you had posted it somewhere. I don't remember where it was exactly, but it's definitely stuck with me. So now, yeah, I would love to know how you practice mindfulness in your own life.
Well, for me, I have like a formal meditation practice. I try to meditate most mornings, as many as I can. And sometimes I use a guided meditation. Oftentimes I will just, focus on my breath and keep coming back to my breath. Sometimes I use mala beads to help me focus and, keep my attention where I want it. So that's kind of my formal practice. And then I have found that I think, mindfulness is something that when you start practicing it, it just kind of naturally makes its way into your life in other areas.
Yes.
So yeah, I use breath work and little breathing techniques when I feel nervous or anxious. And I've also found that simplifying and decluttering my home has been a mindfulness practice in itself. The more I've gotten rid of, the excess stuff and the clutter from my home, the more I've become aware of how everything I own is taking up some of my attention. And it gives me the power to choose what I'm going to allow to take my attention and where I want my attention to go. So although they don't necessarily seem to go together on the surface, I've found that simplifying and minimalism has become a mindfulness practice for me.
Yeah. And that reminded me, I think in our intro to mindfulness, we talk about where you point your flashlight of attention, right? Like you're saying that all this stuff was taking up your attention, and now that you have less stuff, you can be more mindful.
Yes,
you have that.
We actually, my kids and I just did that meditation yesterday. We did that one, and I totally agree. Like when you say in the guided meditation, how sometimes your flashlight is still and focuses on one thing for a long time, and sometimes it's bouncing around to lots of different things. And that's how I felt when our home is cluttered. It's, my flashlight is bouncing around and my attention is bouncing around, and I just can't be present and mindful when that's happening. So simplifying has been so important for me.
I love that. Yeah. It's so interesting how your journey starts with one thing and then it leads you to something completely like something else, and fresh perspectives and mindsets. And it's like you're always opening new doors, right?
It's true. Yeah. And you never know really where that path will lead you. It's interesting because you maybe don't set out in that direction, but then you find it just naturally starts coming into your life more and more.
And when you're just open to it, right? Like you give yourself that space.
Yeah, to see what will come. And yeah.
So we talked about it very briefly, but can you tell me how you practice mindfulness with your family?
Yes, you betcha. So I have 2 kids. My daughter is 7 and my son is 4. And we, again, I think we have a formal mindfulness practice and then more an informal practice. We use EduCalm Family. and we do our little meditations every morning. My daughter has been recently diagnosed with an anxiety disorder and OCD, and going to school is one of the biggest triggers for her anxiety and OCD. So our mornings are hard. They're stressful on her, they're stressful on me. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of OCD coming up, and they're challenging for everyone. So we started doing Educom Family last spring, and it was so nice because it was in these mornings that are kind of hard and busy. I mean, even with nothing else going on, school mornings are busy, and it was this few minutes where we could come together and we would sit down and do the guided meditation and then have a little conversation about what we noticed or what we liked or what really worked. And it's just so cute. And yeah, and I found, like, my daughter, she likes to hold hands when we're meditating. And it was
I'm like crying over here.
I know. Yeah, I sometimes too get choked up. So like it's this, especially during these really hard mornings, it's this few minutes of like peaceful connection where we can just come together and just find a calm moment together. And it's they're just such special little pockets of time for us. And even like my 4-year-old even joins us. Sometimes our dog even joins. So we have our own little meditation circle and we sit, and it's just, it's a really nice time to connect and slow down and just find that little pocket of calm in our day. And then, as I mentioned, like with my daughter, with her anxiety and OCD, we're really working hard to learn strategies that she can use to cope, and especially during times where she's finding a lot of anxiety is coming up. So we have started using these techniques that we're learning kind of in an informal way where she'll notice that she's getting anxious or stressed and use them. And so we do things like, we love the 5-finger breathing technique. We do that pretty much every morning in the car before we go into school. We do like belly breathing and balloon breathing. And just recently, a few weeks ago, we started doing alternate nostril breathing.
Oh yeah. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah. So I know there's like a official name for it, but I don't know what it is. So basically you plug one nostril and inhale and exhale on one side, and then switch and plug the other nostril and inhale and exhale. And so I thought that was, I'm like, a 7-year-old, they're not going to grasp that. But no, she picked it up right away. And so we do our alternate nostril breathing, and we do a lot of grounding techniques and just mindfulness techniques to help her kind of come out of like almost the panic she experiences. So also in the car on the way to school, I'll have her find 5 things she can see, 4 things she can feel, 3 things she can hear, 2 she can taste, and 2 she can smell, and 1 she can taste. And like that is something where she has to concentrate, and it just helps her come back to the moment and kind of get out of that cycle of anxiety. So yeah, it's really cool to see these strategies, a lot of which we've learned in Educom Family. It's neat to see us pulling them out and her using them and me guiding her to use them. And sometimes she just pulls them out on her own. And I just think that's so cool.
Okay, I have literal chills all over my body. How amazing that you are you're modeling these strategies, you're teaching her these strategies. Like, what an amazing gift to give to your child.
Yeah, that's what I've thought too. Most of us don't find a lot of this stuff until adulthood when we start looking for it, right? But I thought, my kids, this can just be a tool in their toolbox that they've always had. And I think too, it's a gift really for them to be able to, these strategies are just part of their normal, right? Like this is just another thing they can do to cope and thrive. And yeah, it's just to know this from such a young age. I think that's just awesome.
Yeah, and it's something that's just part of their routine. So it's not like a weird thing for them that they have to like learn as adults. Imagine what they're going to be like as adults with all of these strategies. You know, when you think
Yeah.
of all of these stressful moments they're going to encounter in their careers or in getting their careers or in university or whatever it may be, that they'll already have that toolbox.
Yeah, that's what I just think I think all kids should, I wish all kids could have it, you know. I think it's amazing that they can learn it now and use it for the rest of their lives.
We're working on it. We're working on it. Can you, like, if you're comfortable enough talking about it, can you tell me kind of the journey that you've had with your daughter? You say she's been diagnosed with anxiety and OCD. Can you kind of tell me the story there, the before, the after? What are the changes you've seen? I'm just very curious, and I feel like our audience is probably very curious to hear about it because a lot of parents struggle with these same issues, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's yeah, I feel like we're moving in a really positive direction right now, but it's been really hard. She's always been more of an anxious child, but when she was in grade 1 last year, her anxiety just kind of skyrocketed and really got to the point where she was having almost panic attacks every morning before school. And there was, you know, it was just heartbreaking, and I didn't know how to help her. And then the majority of her anxiety is kind of separation anxiety from me. So going to school is really challenging. And then we started noticing these repetitive behaviors, like she would go up and down the stairs or in and out of a doorway and seem to get stuck and couldn't stop. And so we knew that, you know, this is not normal, I don't want to go to school kind of behavior. This was something else. So yeah, we're still in the process. We see a lot of doctors and therapists and psychologists and counselors, and it's been very challenging. OCD in kids is really tricky because they often don't have the cognitive abilities to understand what's happening or tell you what's happening. So it's been quite challenging in that way. We're working on it. We're continuing to work on it, but we've found some things that are helping her. And so, yeah, I realized in the beginning of this whole process, I mean, I had no experience with it myself, so I didn't know what to do. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And then this summer I personally committed to learning as much as I can about OCD and anxiety in kids, because I think the more we know, the better equipped we are to support our families and our kids. So we've done a lot of learning, and cognitive behavior therapy is a big way to support and treat kids with OCD. So basically that is a matter of exposing them to the thing that causes their fear and causes these obsessions, and then helping them stop doing the compulsions that they feel will help with their anxiety. So it's basically teaching them to ride this wave of anxiety without doing these compulsions that take over their lives. So that's hard. Like, it's really hard. It's hard to see her struggle. It's hard to see her experience that anxiety and, you know, not be able to do anything, right? Like, it's something that she has to work through, but we're learning a lot, and there's a lot of things we can do. So we're finding humor is really awesome for my daughter. So we've also learned that separating the OCD from the child and labeling it is important. So she has named her OCD Billy Monster. So we talk about how we're going to karate chop Billy Monster and how we're going to kick him in the teeth. And you know, she laughs and that helps. So we do a lot of goofy things. I do a lot of really awesome karate moves that I always get a laugh.
I'd love to see them one time.
Yeah, I think that nobody probably wants to see them. But yeah, so we're learning. It's a process, and yeah, it's been a struggle, but I feel like the more we're learning, the more confidence we're gaining, her and I, and the better equipped we are to face all of this.
So do you feel like then it's going in a good direction slowly?
Yes, I feel like we're definitely seeing some progress and moving in a positive direction for her. I can see her, starting to not be so controlled by the OCD and seeing some of her light and her happiness shining through a lot more than we were seeing last year.
That is so great to hear. I love how you talked about adding humor. I think sometimes as adults, we're so serious about things, and everything that's going on with your daughter, thank you for sharing, by the way. I know that's not easy, and I think our audience will really appreciate hearing that. But I don't even know where I was going with this. I'm very emotional right now. No, I think I was going to say that sometimes, as adults, we take these things so seriously, but sometimes all you got to do is add a little laughter, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's scary and it's stressful, and humor didn't come naturally to me. I was scared. I saw this thing taking over her, and I was scared. And one of our therapists has recommended humor again and again. So it helps. It helps for her and me, because if we all laugh, it just helps, right? And and it
brings lightness into the situation.
Yeah. And it's a lot easier for her to kind of have less anxiety when I can let go of mine. So if, me doing karate or trying to do a cartwheel is going to make her laugh, I'm all for it. And I mean, it takes some creativity, especially at 7 a.m. when I'm still half asleep and I have to figure out how we're going to get down the stairs without getting stuck. It doesn't come naturally to me always, but it's just, it's made a huge difference for all of us, I think.
The humor, and also what I'm hearing too is that you're choosing to take on a perspective that's let's figure out this puzzle. Yes. Instead of it being this heavy, daunting, serious, negative thing, right?
Yeah. That was a big thing, I kind of wrapped my head around that we can beat this, we can do this, and it's not going to rule our lives anymore. That was just a shift in my mindset, which I think helped her shift her mindset too.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't have any kids, but I have kids in a classroom, and we know, and research shows that kids are models of their adults, right? Mm-hmm. And their adults is 99% their parents. If we as adults are feeling very anxious and we're modeling kind of behaviors of feeling anxious and being anxious, our kids feel that energy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think hugely they feel and pick up on our energy. And I think they also see, how we handle it then. When we are anxious, what do we do? And they watch us. And I think it's a great opportunity to teach them something good, for ourselves to handle our anxiety in a positive way. And then also to model that for our kids.
Yeah. Do you feel like having your own self-care practice, which it sounds like you have this practice, do you find that helps also with your daughter? Just the fact that you can be calmer?
Yes. Oh, maintaining my own calm and patience is so important. It's really easy to get frustrated with a child, especially with OCD, because it's not logical and it's frustrating for everyone. It's frustrating for her and for me. And it's so important for me to stay calm and just to like keep coming back and take a breath. And it's just, that helps hugely for all of us.
That's amazing. You're being the model that your daughter needs.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, I'm not perfect by any means, and we are
moments, human.
But yeah, that's right. But just knowing, like, having these strategies for myself and for her, it's been, huge.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same way, like, as a teacher, I try to always breathe through the day. And when I start to feel myself get frustrated, I catch that and I use the tools in my toolbox to bring myself back to a state of calm. But it happens every once in a while where I can't, right?
Yeah.
And it's just part of being a human. So
yeah, of life. And I also find, like, the more I practice mindfulness, the more I'm able to give myself that little moment of pause. So when I am getting frustrated or irritated or something, I can pause and then I can choose to respond instead of react.
Yes.
So instead of, reacting in anger or frustration, I can make a choice about how I'm going to respond. And even if that means taking 10 deep breaths and walking away for 5 minutes sometimes, like, that's, a choice and a response that's more positive than, yelling or getting mad or saying things that are not kind or necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think through all of this that we talked about, like, it's so important to have a bit of compassion for yourself too, because these are not easy situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we do have those moments of yelling and whatnot, just to have that compassion for ourselves that, what, like, that's not how I wanted to react. I can reflect on it a little bit. It's okay. How will I do this next time? Right?
That's right. And even having, like, the humility to say to your kids, I'm sorry, I made a bad choice and I don't like how I behaved. I don't like how I reacted. I will try not to do that. I think even modeling for them, saying, I made a bad choice. I made a mistake. And that happens. I think that in itself is a learning opportunity.
Yeah. And so, like, awesome to do that and to show them that, yeah, like, I make mistakes too.
Yeah.
So, I feel like, you're teaching me so much here. This is, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like, it's probably not easy. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, with any mental health struggles, I think the more we talk about them, the more it normalizes it and the more we can just share together. I think that's important.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I had another question that was sort of related, kind of going back to your mindfulness practice with your kids. You have 2 kids of very different ages. So, lightening the conversation a little bit, can you tell me what a mindfulness practice looks like with these 2 kids? I'm sure it doesn't look the same in your daughter as it does in your son. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it looks very different. My daughter, she's still quite young. She's only 7, but she is very capable of sitting and listening and following the guided meditations and, learning that way. My little guy, we started when he was 3. So he's a 3-year-old, and just sitting is not always something he's interested in. So I just, I've never told my kids they have to do this or that they have to do these. I've always asked them if they wanted to. And so I've asked my little guy if he wants to meditate. And of course he wants to, because that's what everyone else is doing. So
it's the cool thing to do.
That's right. Yeah. So we each have our little cushions. I have a meditation cushion, and then they sit on, like, big stuffed animals that they like. So my daughter sits and listens, and my little guy sits and he has, like, his feet in the air, and he'll, like, do a somersault over his cushion, and, like, it looks very different. And I always think like, well, he's not really listening. But then all of a sudden he jumps in and follows along. And, when we do the 5-finger breathing, he'll put his hand out and trace his fingers. And at the end of each meditation, you and Kaylee, whoever's doing it, says to take a breath together. And so every time he hears that, he jumps up and sits down, crosses his legs, and takes the breath.
Oh my goodness.
You are listening. Like, even though you have your feet in the air the whole time, like, you're listening and taking it all in. And my kids have watched me do yoga and meditation and have seen me hold my hands in prayer and say namaste at the end. So they like to do that at the end of our meditation.
So cute.
So he sits up too and he'll like hold his hands and say namaste. And
oh my God, I'm melting.
Because it's so cute. And I'm like, you are listening, even though he may not know how to use these strategies yet, he's taking them all in. And I feel like they will just be naturally in his brain. He'll just learn these things and have them in his toolkit too. So
he'll have built a toolkit without trying.
That's right. Yeah. This will just be normal to him. Like, doing these things. So
amazing. So I'm curious, how does your daughter react to your son, like on the floor with his feet up and stuff? Like, how's that dynamic?
It's funny. Like, she sometimes closes her eyes and sometimes keeps them open. And often I will hear her like giggling at him, or she'll say, like, Gavin, sit on your cushion.
Oh my goodness.
So I worry too that it might be kind of a distraction for her. But, I think it doesn't really disrupt her that much. Like, I think she's kind of used to having a little brother around who's always being goofy. And it doesn't seem to faze her too much.
So good. It's so fun. I love that you are doing this with like they're at such different ages. And it works.
Oh yeah, it totally does.
We often get questions about like meditation or mindfulness with toddlers. So and we always say like, they might like run around. It might be a little chaotic, but they are still taking in the information.
Yeah, I think it's true. And I think you just have to, let go of any expectations you have. Like, a meditation practice with kids is not going to look the same as it is with adults.
No.
So, just let it go and know that they're taking it in one way or another.
Yes, I love it. And can you tell me more precisely how you're using EduCalm Family?
Mm-hmm. So we do it every morning. We listen to one of the guided meditations. My kids' favorite one is the one where they eat something.
Of course.
Of course, they like to taste. So every day we do a different one, and we just kind of cycle through the modules on there, and we sit down. We like to do it right after we get dressed and brush our teeth, but before we go down and have breakfast. So it's just a moment where we sit, we make our own little meditation circle with the three of us, and sometimes the dog is in there too if he wants to join us.
So cute.
So we sit, and it's just a nice moment to connect together. Like, school mornings are busy and stressful, and this is a moment where we can just come and just kind of connect with each other and slow down and find some calm. And so then afterwards, we'll do the meditation, and then afterwards I like to just ask them what they thought or what they experienced. I'll say, was it easy to sit still? Was it hard to sit still? I'll share what I noticed. I'll say, man, I felt like I had a hard time concentrating. I kept losing my train of thought or getting lost in a train of thought. Or, some days I'll say, wow, I really like taking those deep breaths. And I find that then they might tell me what they liked or what they noticed. And it's really interesting how they are really able to notice and pay attention and just use these strategies. I think it's so interesting.
I think it's so cool that you are having discussions with them after, because it's really giving them that chance to like really gain a deeper understanding of one, the lesson that they're learning, but also like what's going on within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we first started, we would just do the meditation and then we'd get up and go have breakfast. And I thought, I think we're missing a big piece of it is the discussion and talking about it and sharing a little bit. So yeah, we've been doing that for the last few months and I really enjoy it. And I think it's neat to get some insight into their experience too.
What was it like to establish this routine?
It actually was quite easy. I just told them that I had this program where they could do meditation, and I asked them if they wanted to, and they thought it sounded really fun. I think because they had seen me meditate before, so they kind of thought this was like something cool that they could get to do now. So yeah, so we just decided that we would do it before breakfast, and I mean it's only 5 minutes, so even on mornings when we're kind of busy or rushed, it's easy to just fit it in, and I think they look forward to it. I know that like a few mornings since school has started this year, we have forgotten or skipped it, and they notice right away. Like they are very quick to remind me we haven't done our meditation. So I think that it's just become part of our morning rituals now.
And I feel like kids, once they start doing this practice, they recognize that they need it to be the best versions of themselves that they can be, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that they enjoy like this moment of calm and connection and just like these few minutes where we can all sit down together and just really be together and be present with each other. I think they really like that. And I think it makes them feel good too. So
that's so great. So it's you seem to think like there's been an overall very positive impact for your family, for your daughter, even for your son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you say so?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think they're learning things. Even this summer, I was having some technical issues on my blog and I was feeling kind of stressed and just anxious about it. And my daughter came up and she said, "Mom, just take 10 deep breaths. It will help. Trust me." And I think like, how cool is it that she's taking this strategy and realizing that it makes you feel better and that you can use it in your life. I love that.
I love that. And I feel like that's a perfect little story to end this episode with. And before I let you go, I would love to know where we can find you.
Yes, for sure. You can find me on my blog. It's simplelionheartlife.com. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm Simple Lionheart Life. And on Instagram is where I share a lot of my journey and tips and tricks along the way. I also have a Facebook group, Simple Lionheart Life, which is a really great community of people who are on the journey of simplifying and decluttering. And it's really supportive and a great place to ask questions and get inspiration and encouragement when you need it. And you can find the link for that on my blog.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I absolutely loved this conversation with Melissa. I think it's so important to talk about these things. They are happening. They are happening in our families. They are happening in our classrooms. And they're really important to talk about because to gain strategies and ideas, we need to talk about it. So loved it. Loved this conversation. You guys have to check out the Simple Lionheart Life. Now, your exit ticket for today, I already said it at the start, but if you haven't done so yet, go ahead right away. Take a screenshot of you listening in to the Balanced Educator Podcast and put it in your Instagram stories and tag us at Educalm. That's EDUCALME. We cannot wait to connect with you. And again, for those in Winnipeg or area, Just want to remind you that April 25th, we will have the workshop, EduCalm Classroom, Daily Guided Mindfulness Practices and Curriculum to Support Student and Teacher Well-Being, Classroom Management, Resiliency, and Learning. And your subscription to EduCalm Classroom is included in the cost of this workshop, and you can go to educalm.com/EduCalm Classroom PD to join. Now, what are we up to this week? Kaylee has just wrapped up a month of teaching EduCalm Teacher, and we'll be chatting about its takeaways soon. It's crazy how fast a month goes by, but Kaylee has been the one teaching the course, so I think it's better if she chats about it with you. And we are also doing a workshop with administrators of Manitoba at the COSL conference. And again, as usual, creating content behind the scenes for EduCalm Classroom and for the Balanced Educator free resources, as well as we are doing some interviews for some upcoming podcast episodes. So thank you so much for tuning in, for listening. We appreciate you so much. Thanks for being here and have a great week.
Hey there, Balanced Educator. We appreciate you and the work that you're doing in the world. We are here to support you, so we've created a free resource library for you to use anytime you want. Resources for mindfulness for you and your kiddos at home or in the classroom. You can get these free resources by going to www.educalm.com/The Balanced Educator. Again, that's www.educalm, that's spelled educalme.com/The Balanced Educator. Thank you for being a part of our EduCalm community.